So we're getting into Love Doctor series. Today, we want to look at letting go. Hey, and moving on. And loving again. So letting go and loving again. Anyway, there are a few things that probably people think like, this one, I can never let it go. So it's in my mind. Whatever you do is there. Then we'll go to archives. Some people argue that it's the ladies who do that more. It's not only the ladies, please. The guys also do it. Don't ask us difficult things. So we're going to be delving into the issue of letting go. This is like a forgiveness made easy session, if you ask me. And then we have the ever beautiful Counsellor Basilea Baisie-Essel in the house. Beautiful? How are you doing?
By God's grace, I'm fine. Yourself?
I'm great. So today we're going to do a little concert because your husband is not here.
Yeah,
How is he though?
He's fine, by God's grace.
Nice. Good morning, Osofo Basie-Essel. Yeah. So how's counseling going on? I mean, in church, at work, people coming around, loving your work?
Yes, for now, it's the lecturing that is taking more time.
Once
in a while, I do one-on-one counseling.
I see.
And then also with church, I would say I do more of guidance. You know, guidance is where you give information, you tell the audience you have what to do about this and that. But counseling is when you meet the person and then you discuss the issue at hand. Yeah, so there's a difference between guidance and counseling.
Oh, that's why they put in guidance and counseling. I see. Yeah. Great. So letting go. And loving again. That's why loving again probably could come, but the letting go part. Yeah. Why do we have to start having conversations of letting go in a place where we profess love? I love you. You are my world, forever, ever, and all of that. How it is that we start to have conversations of you need to let it go in a place where I actually love you.
Okay. So the letting go comes in when probably one couple, or should I say yes, one party to the relationship has been badly hurt, or let's say where there's a heartbreak. And then, sometimes because when we are at the relationship level, we share a lot together, visions, purposes, places we want to go, things we want to do together. Sometimes it's very difficult for, especially the party that was badly hurt to say that I'm leaving. So sometimes people linger in the relationship and then they keep on getting hurt over and over, which, ends up being a disadvantage to the one who has been hurt or keeps on getting hurt. So the letting go comes in when we know that, you'll be on a more advantageous side if you would let go of the relationship so that you can mend whatever has been broken and then you can love again or you can move on. Because sometimes when people find themselves in that broken state, let's say if the individual is a student, you realize that it's affecting his or her academic work. If he or she used to be very spiritual, close to God and all that, you realize that because of, the broken state he or she is in, it might even affect his or her relationship with God and a whole lot. Even how he or she relates with others, family, friends. He might extend the emotions he or she is experiencing in the relationship to even those around him. So sometimes when you find yourself in a, let me use the word toxic relationship, you need to, decide or make a decision. If you decide to remain in the relationship, you need to know that it's affecting a lot of things around you. People around you might be getting hurt and all that without you even knowing. Your academic work is dropping, your spiritual life. So because of all the disadvantages, surrounding what, the fact that you are remaining in the relationship, you need to decide to take a step forward. Yeah.
So that is the letting go. I mean, because when I saw this, I thought, okay, letting go would be, I forgive you, it's okay, we'll go over it again, and then we'll do it again, and then we'll do it again. Jesus has to forgive a lot of times. I don't even want to multiply that 70 times 7 and all of that and ongoing. And then you made reference to the fact that if it's an abusive relationship, right? But does it go through a process before you get to that point? What process should it go through? Then you know that, okay, at this pinnacle, I'm done.
Okay, so most definitely when two people are in a relationship, definitely there would be points of conflict. There will be times when either party will be hurt and all of that. We need to look at the magnitude of, the pain or the situation or whatever happened, yes. So if, let's say it's a relationship where the one party is abusive physically, if the other party keeps on getting hurt over and over, who knows what can happen next? It might lead to death, unfortunately, or a more serious hurt. So if, the magnitude is huge, then the individual has to, quickly take steps to leave the relationship, than to try and manage things and say that, oh, things will get better and all that. If it has to do with issues, let's say anger or impatience on the part of one or the other, for those things, we can work on them with time as we talk things through. Maybe if it has to do with misunderstanding, we misunderstanding each other often and all that, we can work around things. But if it has to do with abuse, let's say one cheating on the other often, right. These things hurt so much, and emotional pain is not to be toyed with. Yes, because when one is experiencing emotional pain, the mind interprets it as, a pain that has to be dealt with, takes it seriously, and then releases stress hormones like cortisol. And so these can even result in the person feeling chest pains and all that. Some people even sometimes feel like they're having a heart attack when they are going through such, heavy emotional pains. Yeah, so if you are going through that, if the emotional pain is so heavy, and it's even affecting you physically, your body is going through it, you need to take steps, to, even if not leave the relationship completely, there should be some form of separation. If it's a normal relationship that hasn't led to marriage yet, I believe that you can tell the individual that let's give ourselves some time to keep studying things. Let me, take some one or two things into consideration to see if we can continue. If it is marriage, that is when sometimes separation is suggested, so that probably each of them will go through counseling. And if, the other person can work on himself or herself, then probably they come back together.
I see. So that goes beyond conflict resolution. Then it gets to separation. Before then, if we can't do anything about it, then we go. But you see, we're in Africa. We appreciate the fact that I think the last time you were here, you were advising one caller about how to actually deal with people around the community, your relation with in-laws, and all of that. Aside the fact that there is a beautiful side to that, there is the, I don't want to use diabolic this, there is another side to it that greatly contributes to people letting go. What do you have to say about that? Have you had practical issues, and how did you deal with that?
Okay, in terms of third parties coming in.
Yes.
So with the issue of third parties, we need to look at the relationship. Okay, if it has to do with family, if it has to do with in-laws, if it has to do with your own family, you need to be very mindful how you deal with it. If it has to do with friends, church members, those third parties that we can at least sort of have some kind of move away from for some time, and it wouldn't boundaries. And it wouldn't cause much problem, we can do that. But if it has to do with family, for family, it's quite delicate because you are still part of your family. You can't say that because you are married, you have separated yourself from your family. If there are family issues, you have to go and settle. You need to go home. When there are occasions, programs and all that, you need to go home and go and have the programs and all that. When you're also having programs, you call family to come. So we need to look at the relationship well. If it has to do with family, then you need to know that I can't separate myself from my family. No matter how difficult it is, or no matter how controversial my family or that of my spouse can be, I need to know that there's no way we can break relations. Even if I decide to go my separate ways. I don't want to have anything to do with my family and all that. It doesn't change the fact that you are still a family member. So when it comes to your family or that of your spouse's family, then that is why I was talking about the last time, that you need to be extra, patient and then manage the situation very well. I understand that sometimes it's very tough. Some, external family members can cause a lot of trouble. But then you need to always have at the back of your mind that when all this is said and done, can I still go and talk to my mother-in-law? Can I still request some 1 or 2 things from her? Can I go home? Can I go to her place where the need be? So we need to resolve the conflict. We need to look at ways through which we can come back to being a family. Yes, there might be times the conflict can really get intensive. If we need to call in maybe some elderly people in the family to come and settle the issues, we need to do that. If we need to sometimes call our men of God and their spouses to come and sit in to listen to our issues, we need to do that. In whichever way we can resolve the issues, we need to. Definitely, as human as we are, conflicts are inevitable. Nonetheless, resolution is also possible. So we need to look at ways to resolve the conflict.
Ooh, okay. How has your relationship been like? Have you been to, or have you gotten to a point where you feel like, I want to let go, maybe just, some people for letting go means separation. Some letting go means a divorce, right?
Yes.
Well, maybe because we didn't want to use the divorce thing, it works. Now, you can also share with us on our socials. We'll be sure to read them. At what point you went through whatever you went through, wanted to give up, and then what it means for you to love again. Just share that with us. But Doc, let's get into the emotional baggage that people have to deal with, transitioning from letting go to loving again.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. Let's deal with that. How to, kill all these emotional dragons that comes with it, and then loving again. And at what point is it right to love again?
Okay, so I'll start with the last question. So it will be right for you to love again when you have gone through the healing process.
There's a healing process?
Yes, there is a healing process. When you have gone through brokenness, you need to be mended. Anytime we see something is broken, let's say you have a very precious item and you realize that there's a little hitch, you want to look at ways through which you can mend it. So when we are broken, definitely when breakups happen, when our relationships go through a lot of strain and stress and we are broken, let us remember that we don't have to leave ourselves at the broken state. We need to be mended. You can only move on when you can tell that I have really gone through the healing process and I feel I'm healed and I can love again. When right after a breakup, some people want to get into another with the intention that as the other person lavishes love on me and all that, it will help me heal faster. But unfortunately, most of the time it doesn't work because they transfer the emotions from the past into the new one and it doesn't work. So you can only love again when you have gone through the healing process. And the process, I would say, takes a bit of time.
A bit of time, like 2 years, 3 years?
It depends. We are all different. And it would depend on how well you take the steps into consideration or how well you work on yourself. Some people quickly run to therapy. Some people quickly start going through counseling. There are counselors who take them through a number of sessions and all that, and so they heal faster. But the very first thing you should realize when you have gone through a heartbreak is the fact that you need to appreciate the fact that I am in this particular state. You need to appreciate your emotions. Some people deny the fact that they are heartbroken.
How?
Some would now want to be out there. They want to replace their broken emotion with a lot of fun. They want to be out there, going out, involving themselves in church programs, just trying to cover up. So when you don't accept the fact that I'm in a broken state. I have gone through, some kind of brokenness. Something has happened to me. I'm not my usual self. You need to appreciate that so that now you can begin to take the steps into, that will help to mend the situation. When you realize you're not too well physically, what you do is to go to the hospital. You appreciate the fact that I've been having headaches for some time. I've been having palpitations. I need to be attended to by a doctor. The same way when you are emotionally broken and you realize that mentally things are not working, you need to, take a step back and then decide on what to do. So appreciate what is happening, appreciate the emotions. And then secondly, allow yourself to mourn the loss. Sometimes it's more or less like you losing something precious, the relationship you had, what you shared with the other person is like something precious you used to have. So it's more or less like you losing something precious, and you need to allow yourself to mourn the loss.
Wow.
For some people, have to be with crying. Crying is a form of catharsis. When we say catharsis, it's like releasing your emotions, allowing yourself to ease up.
In
Africa,
the pent-up emotions,
I know.
Is that not true? In Africa, men don't cry. So how do they do that?
Yes, and so, in therapy, we sometimes encourage our clients to cry. So as a counselor, normally you should have, some tissues in your office and all that. Sometimes you will just have to sit back and allow the client to release the emotions. That is what we call catharsis. Yes. So crying is therapy on its own, because when you are emotionally broken, you feel the pain in your heart. Mine wasn't in a relationship, but it was a relation I had, with someone, and then some form of betrayal or something happened, and the pain I felt in my heart, I felt like just weeping everything out, and the more I cried, the more I realized the pain was waning. Yeah, so you need to allow yourself to mourn. For some people, they might have to go and sit at a solitary place and then reflect on all that has happened. Some might have to write down everything that happened and rip the paper into pieces. So whichever way you can mourn what has happened, allow yourself to go through the mourning process. I'm using mourning because it's more or less like a form of loss. Yeah. Yes, please.
It doesn't push them into depression?
Definitely there will be some bits and pieces of depression. We have different levels in depression. Right from the onset, you realize that you are depressed. Your emotions are down. If you wouldn't want to go out there, if you wouldn't want to involve yourself in too many activities, understand yourself. Appreciate the fact that I'm not my usual self. If you are that active person who is out there, invited for programs and all that, you might want to put a number of things on hold and then go through the healing process. If you can still go about your duties at work and all that, you should still make sure that, you are finding time to heal. Yeah, so going through the process is very important. And then you need to also, more or less, it's very important to try and cut some form of connection with your, let me say ex in quotes, the one, you had the relation with and probably the heartbreak came. You need to, as much as possible, try and reduce to the barest minimum. And if it was that intense, sometimes you need to cut communication completely. For some people, it might have to do with, probably muting his status. Some people might want to, I don't know, deleting their contacts or whatever, but you need to, as much as possible, try and cut contact, because I had this client telling me that every time I see his status, I start weeping, I start remembering the things we went through and all that. And then I see him posting some other ladies and all that, and it breaks my heart. And so I tell her that, my dear, if you can mute the status, which I know you can, mute it.
And if you have mutual friends?
Yes.
Some friends that you picked up along the relation, they are cool with you, they are cool with him, but both of you are not okay.
Yes, surely.
What do you do with mutual friends in this situation?
When the thing happens fresh, most definitely, after you go through the healing process, when you see the person again, the emotions wouldn't be as when it happened fresh. So when it's at the beginner stage, you might want to refrain from going for parties together and all that, where you see him dancing with other people, also trying to give you attitude and all that. It can, make you feel even worse.
Yeah.
More or less like bruising the wound. Yes, please. So try and cut connections with your ex. If it means not texting for some time, not calling. After you've gone through the healing process, probably you could be friends again. I'm not saying you should make an enemy out of your ex. You might need him or her sometime. You don't know. But, as part of the healing process, cut connections. For some people, they might have to delete some pictures of the two of you, moments you shared together, some videos you had. If you keep them, sometimes while you're getting healed, you go back to the pictures, the videos, and then it's as if everything starts coming back. If your counselor has been taking you through sessions, you go back to those pictures and videos, and sometimes he has to go and start all over because you are broken again.
Hey, then Facebook has to be careful. They always come
reminding you.
2 years ago.
Quickly scroll
What's
past.
That?
And then if you should probably find your interest again, or if you want to go back to school, you want to start a project, you want to get more serious with your work life, you should try and find some other things to replace, the lost emotion or the lost time or the lost relationship. Yes, maybe you should now begin to form a new relationship with your work, or you find a new interest. You want to learn a new trade, you want to learn how to make wigs, or learn a different something. Just try and replace, the relationship with something else. That would help to take your mind off all that you shared and all that. Your focus will now go on to the new thing you are learning. If it's a school you want to go back to, now all your attention is on your books, you are going for lectures. Time has a way of naturally helping us to heal. So while the time is elapsing, now your focus is on other things. With time, you look back and realize that even when you see the picture of, the other person, you realize that pain is no longer there. That is when you realize that healing is taking place.
I see.
Yes.
Some Christians would, with no fault of theirs, plunge into drinking, being secluded, just you said that they should be able to cut some, ties with certain people. But some of them, it gets to the extreme. They want to try something different. I was in school when we met. Why do I want to go back to school to fix anything? How about I try to drink, maybe? Because, it's like when I drink, I guess I can get back maybe and forget about all of these things. So some people's own takes a negative dive. Yeah. Right? And these people are in the church. They're Christians. Emotions don't speak in tongues.
Sure.
You get what I mean? So how are these things, dealt with? How should we deal with it from a Christian perspective that we don't fall like that? Also, before you answer that, the phone lines are open. You know how we do? Take the numbers, call us, share your experience. Have you gone through a heartbreak? How did you deal with it? What have you done to heal? Are you healed? Or you doubt that you're actually healed? You can call and find out. Ask any question at all. We're talking about letting go and loving again, which means that you can love again, but want to love again the right way. Right? Okay. Yeah. So you can call in. Right. So how do we deal with that?
Sure.
Yeah, so we don't get into the negative side of all of these things.
Okay. So I was coming to the issue of self-care.
Self-care.
When you're going through, a heartbreak. Because if you don't take care, you might, because of the state you are in, plunge yourself into some, behaviors that might end you up, in something else. Maybe you fall ill or something. So you need to be mindful that the state I'm in, if I don't take care, I might not eat, I might not drink, I might not want to talk to anyone, and then I'll find myself going down with each passing day. So when
please hold on with that. Abigail is on the line. Good morning, Abigail.
Good morning, Auntie Precious.
How are we?
And my counselor, good morning.
Yeah. Abigail.
Letting go and loving again. it's not easy. You know, I've been through this emotional, whatever. Letting go. Yeah, you can let go sometimes, but it depends on the second party. How are you going to love again? What is it showing you for you to love again? That's the task. You try your best to make the person happy. Let me just chip in this thing. My husband is a very hard person, you know. So going out, he will not tell you. Traveling, he will not tell you. You'll be there just pass stuff, even if you want to pray with him. And I keep on praying. I say, sometimes it's not praying. It's the character and the attitude we have to change. Yeah. If I'm hurting you, Auntie Precious, we know. The pretense in marriages these days is too much. You'll be hurting somebody pretending not to know. But the woman is always sensitive to know that my husband is not happy. Let me make things. Or the husband is noticing that my wife is not happy. Let me just try and make her happy. And, you know, all your effort is like, oh my God. So, letting go, yes, when you let go, what of the second person? Yeah, I'm even shaking as I'm talking to you. For some time now, I have been indoors and I noticed depression. Because my sister went through it, I see myself sitting quietly, be indoors. No one knows I'm there until my daughter will come back from school and knock. You know, my business is down and husband will leave you in the house for weeks. No calling to check how you feeling, nothing. And when you talk, it's like, I'm a type that doesn't like complaining. And, you know, where I stand, for me to go and tell somebody, it's very difficult. Because people come to me, seeing me as their solution. Because I go out there, I sing at church, I play with everybody, I encourage, and deep down, I am tired.
Well, Abigail, I know that our counselor is poised to deal with that. What do you tell Abigail?
Yeah. Okay, Abigail, first of all, I'm happy you have come out to share your story because a lot of people are going through pain. They don't know who to share it with. You know,
Right.
As Abigail is mentioned, she finds herself being indoors the whole time. Probably nobody until maybe she mentioned it not long ago. Probably she hasn't shared it with anyone, and nobody knows what she's going through. So you coming out to share the story with us this morning, I believe it's something really important you have done. First of all, I believe you have appreciated the fact that there's an issue, and so you want to do something about it. You know, from all that you have said, you realize that you are at the broken side. It seems your partner probably either doesn't know what you are going through or he's moving on with his business and other things, and then you find yourself at a disadvantaged point. So Abigail, I would just implore you or encourage you to, you know, as much as possible, pick yourself up, because if you remain in this state, like you mentioned, your business is going down, probably your relations with your children isn't as it used to be, or even friends and family. You don't want to go out there and all that. You can't change people. What you can change is yourself. And so you need to pick yourself up. If you are still marrying your husband, understand that there's no way, if he keeps doing the things he's doing, I'll pray for him, I'll talk to him. But if he's not changing and I want to live with him, I need to work on myself. How do I move on? Or how do I make myself happy, even in the midst of all this? So I believe you need to shift focus. Sometimes we focus too much on the other person than the other important things in our lives. You could decide to, you know, shift your focus to your work. If you have a shop or whichever means by which you make ends meet, probably you could decide to take things to a different level. while you're doing that, is taking your attention and all that, you realize that now you're not thinking so much about what my husband is doing to hurt me as he's coming home, what is he going to say. While you're staying indoors, all you're thinking about is him. The more you think about him, the more broken you feel. Now you should try and refocus. Refocusing is very important. When we refocus to the things that, would help us, come out of our shells or help us feel better, it helps us to let go of the things that make us, feel hurt. And so I would advise, I believe when your husband sees that you are more vibrant, you're more cheerful, he might probably, see that my wife is being better than she used to be. Maybe he would change. If he doesn't change, I would implore you, if it is church, you want to involve yourself more, take up some leadership roles at church and all that, I believe you should just try and, shift your attention from all your husband is doing to something that would make you feel better about yourself.
All right, Abigail, you owe it to yourself. Honey, pick yourself up because you are the person that you have. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Okay, girl. This is women encouraging another woman. Girl, you can do this. All right? Okay, so we have Derek from Tema. Derek, right? Okay, so Doris. Yes, Doris from Tema. Morning, Doris. Sorry. But please call again, Doris. I'd love to hear from you. But I really enjoyed that counsel. I'll keep it in my go-to. Yeah. So you were talking about the emotional baggage and everything. So we're looking at self-care, right?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, when you know that the state you are in is likely to leave you in, a state where you might end up not taking good care of yourself. When you have that at the back of your mind, you now have to be intentional in working on it. So I know that this state I'm in, if I don't take care, I won't eat, I won't drink, I won't bath, I won't take my bath, I won't go out, when it happens fresh, it's normal. But understand that if you don't take care, the state you are in might end you up somewhere you don't want. It might end you up in the hospital. It might bring you another health condition or something. And so we need to be intentional about self-care when we are going through brokenness. Like Abigail shared with us, she finds herself indoors. She probably doesn't want to go out and all that. But if she can decide to do the opposite. I don't want to go out, but in terms of self-care, if I want to take good care of myself, I might have to take my bath, dress up, head out there, and come back feeling better. So you need to be mindful of what you take in when you're going through that. Some people might resort to alcohol, drugs, and all that. Please and please again, when you're going through, an emotional pain, these things would rather plunge you deeper and deeper into the pain. So when you begin to eat well, you listen to good music. We are Christians, and you might want to slot in some very inspiring gospel music that can, speak some words into your soul for you to feel better. While you're cooking, some of these inspiring songs can help us get over the pain. Some of the words can all of a sudden make you feel like, oh yes, I can.
Which song does that for you?
Oh, a number of them. Can I even remember now? Our gospel musicians are doing very well.
Yeah.
You look at PAC's, when you watch her videos, someone going through, they encourage, going through so much brokenness, and then all of a sudden you realize that God has brought you through. So you know that God can bring me out of the state I'm in. You listen to these songs. And then if you can go for some jogging in the mornings, you exercise and all that, all these can help you, while you're working on yourself, trying to build yourself, trying to nourish the body instead of, doing what you feel like doing. It can help you feel better. It can make you feel like, no, I need to talk to someone.
Right.
I need to go for therapy. I need to do this and that. So self-care when you're going through brokenness is something we should, be very mindful of.
What happens to children in a situation of letting go? And that's another word of divorce. What happens to children? What do you consider as a counselor when children are involved before you get into the idea of divorcing and finally letting go?
Okay. So that has to do with married couples,
yes,
right? Okay.
For married couples.
So for married couples, when divorce comes in, one of the factors you can't do without is the issue of children. The fact is we are going our separate ways, but our children are not. They have us. And so no matter what, even should you end up in the court of law, they would ask you certain questions about the children, who is taking custody, how are you financing the kids' school, their fees, and then all of that. Even the court of law would let you come to terms, and decide on what to do. And so when couples want to go their separate ways, they should never forget that their children are still, within. They haven't gone their separate ways. They still have you as mommy and daddy. And so the couple have to decide, make a decision, sit down and talk. What are we doing with the children? They are still your mommy, you are still their mom, you are still their dad.
Right.
What time do you come in to see them? How do we pay their fees and all that? Who is taking custody? It's something the couple have to necessarily sit down to talk about. They decide, and then they know exactly what to do with their children.
I see. Well, I'm also thinking of a situation where in the course of letting go, or when you're going through the cycle of pain, some people carry their children along with them.
Yeah.
Right? So you see a child taking sides, right? That's in the process of one of them letting go. They kind of tend to feed the children with certain things. Then the children in turn have certain resentments for the other parent. Right? In that situation, what do you do to save the child?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So it's mostly inevitable. Sometimes you realize that the children are moving to the side of one than the other. They are supporting either mommy or daddy and, resenting the other.
Is it their place?
I know it is not, but, they see what goes on. Sometimes mommy talks a lot to the kids and tells them, see what your daddy is doing, and all that, tells them everything. Probably sometimes daddy doesn't even get the chance to defend himself before them. So normally we would advise that if it's possible, let the children go through therapy. Most definitely on whoever's side they are on, they've been told stories to let them believe that the other person is evil. But when they go to sit before the therapist or the counselor, he would help them to see the other side of the story. Yes, so children of divorcees, normally we advise that they are brought to therapy because sometimes they find themselves in a broken state as well. They don't know what to do. They do love their parents. They wished their parents would be together. And so we would advise that the children go through therapy so that they'll get to see the picture as a whole and not just in parts. Most of the time, they have just one side of the story.
I'm going to have to pause you there because Fatih is calling us from the great city of Medina. Morning, Fatih.
Good morning.
Great. Let's hear you.
Okay. Doc, you're doing an amazing job. Please, my question is that when you are living with an narcissistic man, within you, you know that you are not doing this anymore. I mean, you are not in this marriage anymore. But because of the kids, you have to stay back. I don't know how to do. How are you going to navigate this?
So because of the kids, you feel like, okay, because of them, I can't go. I can't leave. Maybe the man is doing all kinds of things, but because of the kids, you are considering the kids and you don't want to go. Is that the situation?
Not that you don't want to go. The thing is that the person is not abusing you physically, but in the union that you are in, there is no communication. There is there is nothing like no affection. You both are just living like roommates, something like that.
Yeah.
When it hurts you, but at this point, you don't have any basis to stand on to move on. Yes.
Okay, so you feel like, okay, we're just in this marriage, we're not talking, we're not feeling anything, but you are there because you have a child, and that's something you have to protect. Is that it, Doc?
Yes, please.
Fati has an issue. She's thinking that, okay, we're in marriage, we don't communicate.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, it even might be time for me to let go, but
Yeah.
we have a baby.
Sure.
I don't know what to do.
Yes. So a lot of women normally would want to, linger in the union because of the children. They don't want to leave, and then some men would say that, yes, you can leave, but don't leave with my kids and all that. So for the sake of the children, they might want to still stay around and then help the kids get to a certain point before. I earlier mentioned that we need to look at the magnitude of the treatment, whatever the other party is doing. If it is such that if you don't take care, you might lose your life. If you lose your life, what happens to the kids then? So if you are lingering, if what your partner is doing is such that you can contain it, let's say it has to do with anger. Yeah, when he gets angry, how he shouts on you, those words at you. But when he gets angry and he is, let's say, fighting you, hitting you here and there, it might not end well. But if it is the type you can manage, probably has to do with how his, probably he allows other parties in the home and all that. If you can manage, you know that you can manage it, and emotionally you wouldn't be too broken to the point of probably ending up in the psychiatry, fine. But if you realize that day in and out you are going down, day in and out personally, everything about you is just dropping, you should take certain steps. Most of the time we leave ourselves in the state, we don't take any steps, we don't talk to anyone. Sometimes when you talk to a third party, the person can advise you that I think you should do this and that. If you are in church and you can confide in your spiritual head, I believe you should. Sometimes they can help you to, take certain steps, they can support you in some way. If maybe your husband is not fending for the children and all that, and you find someone who would say that, you know what, I'll take care of the kids and all that, you can decide to, okay, I would stay for the sake of my kids, for them to feel that daddy is home. But if it is to the point where you, day in and out, are dying, in quotes, then I believe that you should take certain steps. You might not divorce him, you need to sometimes separate from him. Go and live somewhere, have some peace of mind and all that. But then it's not easy. Sometimes explaining to the children why mommy has to go and live here while daddy is there. You could find a very good reason to, let the children understand that maybe I have to go and take up some roles here and there, so I need to, move away for some time. We'll come back and all that. So we need to look at a lot of things.
Okay, great. So Doris is back on the line. Hi, Doris.
Oh, good morning, please, Sister Della.
Good morning. We lost you before. Now we have you. Let's hear you.
Oh, okay. Mereku, esro do. Epereka koya ojo. Ojo yogote. Oh, ire dikaka Mr. Dasani jireva ko. Pezene ya, begale nuto eso yo na yo pete ma denumu. Ire karo do me let me awo. Situation look let me awo.
Okay. All right. So Auntie Doris is talking actually about her daughter. She says that, what do you do in a situation where your spouse is outside the country? So you guys have separated, by distance, you're living apart. And then all of a sudden, attitudes start to come in. People start to change. Now, the one out there is behaving differently. And the daughter here doesn't really know what to do.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, so that's...
Okay, so are they divorced, or is just, they living apart?
Yeah, they're living apart. Now communication is terrible.
Okay.
We can't talk to you. We don't know what's happening with you. You won't tell us how far it's going. We don't even know whether we're married or not.
Sure. Yeah. If, the marriage was constituted in court, normally until we go back to court to sign papers and all that, the court of law will believe that you are still together. And so we need to find a way to find him. Until we find him, to know if we are still in this or we need to go our separate ways, the lady cannot move on unless probably she wants to do that traditionally. Yes, but the court of law still knows that the two of you are married. You understand? So when it comes to this whole issue of marriage and separation, sometimes separation, thinking it's divorce, but it isn't and all that, especially when the whole thing started from court.
Right.
We need to go back there to correct things. Let them know that we are no longer together. Because you know that court documents things. And so until we have gone to sign that we've gone our separate ways, for them, all they know is that the two of you are married. Yes. So if you are struggling to find where he is and all that, I don't know if you know some family and friends whom you can contact and then find a way to get to him. Because the woman definitely needs to know that, are you still interested? Should I move on? If the communication has ended and all that, I believe that probably the man has already gone on.
Right.
But we need to do the right thing. Documentations and everything had to be done so that the woman can be released to move on with her life.
Okay, I think that's quite cool. But some people would also want to, those people who want to have a life there and then another here, more like an auxiliary life, so they keep you around. Once in a while they send you some cash, but they have a family there.
Yeah.
How is that supposed to work in an African setting?
Well, some women might be okay. If you send us money, if you take care of the kids, you can live your life there and then come back. When you come to Ghana, it's amazing how some couples live. Some actually understand each other. Yes, you are out there, probably have a family there, and then you are with me as well. If you would take care of the kids, most of them, or you send us money to fend for ourselves, we are okay.
Is that the best?
It isn't, but I'm saying that's how some couples, deal with it. But if...
please hold on for me. Godfriend. Morning, Godfriend.
Precious.
Yes. Sure, let's hear you.
Precious, children are gifts from God. So children are such a way that God has loaned you a money. So as God giving you that gift, if you don't just do it anyhow, if you're really a Christian, a couple of people met Jesus Christ, and they were asking Jesus Christ, how many times do you have to divorce your wife? Jesus Christ, on his wisdom, told them, until you have met him in the man. You have met your wife on another man's. Meaning, divorce is not anything that you should just handle it like like a water that you should take it. We don't just marry. You don't just marry. You don't just say, "Oh, I'm grown. I've grown," and this person, the person I'm going to marry him, is rich. You don't use materialism about everything. Marriage is divine. Marriage is spiritual. That's been the issue. So that's what I wanted to contribute.
Right. Thank you so much, Godfrey. Well, you heard him. You don't just marry. And so if you're going into it, that's why it's not for boys and for girls. Can't say that's for boys and girls. Marriage is not for boys and girls, right? Because he's thinking that if you go into it and God has gifted you a child, why then would you want to separate something that God has, put a topping on the cake, right?
Yes, sure. It's interesting. Before the children came in, we were individuals. We had our own lives, we had our different personalities and all that. As time goes on, people change. Things happen. We've given birth to kids. Between us, we have, some fruits between us. Nonetheless, as, time is elapsing and we are changing, this person is now taking on a new lifestyle and all that. The point is, if things are happening and one party is, I always use dying. Sometimes it's emotional. When you are dying emotionally, it's sometimes can lead to the real deal, you know. So if the other party is being badly affected, it actually ends up affecting the children. If we don't take the necessary steps, the children would, you know, rather become something we didn't want them to be. So sometimes our being together might rather end up destroying the children. If we rather separated, or probably went our separate ways, and then one of us managed them better, or we found ways through which we have something called co-parenting. We found ways through which we'll co-parent, and then the children would have some peace of mind and all that, to be better people than probably we being together. Why not? Because sometimes when we are together and they see us quarreling, they see us fighting every day, things are happening. Yes, you know, the children end up learning some of these things. You know, some studies prove that children who come from abusive homes sometimes end up being abusive themselves. Yes. Let's say young ladies who saw their mothers insulting their dads and all that, sometimes they believe that that is how marriage works. You, the woman, have to be tough. You need to speak up. You need to, you know, and young men who see their dads throw fists at their moms and all that, believe that the man is supposed to be the lord of the home. He's supposed to have his way and all that. So if keeping the kids between us would end up breaking them, would end up letting them take on attitudes that we probably didn't want them to, and now going our separate ways would rather, you know, be of much benefit to them. Why not?
Yeah, well, we're about to go, but before we go, everybody in church would run to the pastor. They have an issue. They want to, so the question is, who pastors the pastor? Now, the pastor is going to, feeling that, okay, I'm not doing right. And the pastor is at the point where they feel like, okay, we need to go through a divorce. Is there special counseling for such people? Because the flock is looking up to them. Why do you want to break up your home? You are preaching that we need to love one another, but they are going through crazy in their homes. Right? Is there any special thing you do for pastors who are at the point of a divorce?
Well, you know, they would have to go through counseling before, but definitely we'll take into consideration the fact that, you know, they are in ministry, and then a lot of people are, you know, looking up to them. So when you're counseling a couple who are in ministry, you, the counselor, must have this at the back of your mind before you start the whole process. You know, before they came into ministry or before ministry, their marriage is, let me say, separate from the ministry. Their marriage life, or, you know, their lives in the home is separate from the ministry. Though, you know, the flock is looking up to them and all that, their married life is completely different. The point is that we always have to consider the effect, okay? Is the marriage making the man of God do better, or is affecting him at church? You know, if things are not going on well in the home, things are going very bad and all that, and he's not being able to pull up, you know, at church and all that, normally we wouldn't start with divorce. Most of the time, counselors wouldn't start with a divorce. We would, as much as possible, before we even start divorce counseling, at the back of our minds, we want to mend things. We want to see how we can bring the couples together. But at the time, we look at the effect. Okay, so if there has to be some form of separation for the couples to bring their thoughts together, put things, you know, put themselves together and all that, to come back together, if that would be the most necessary things to do, step to take, we take that. But at the end of the day, the most important thing, you know, when we start divorce counseling, what we look forward to is trying to mend things. But where it's not working, you know, though they are in ministry, if things still don't work, it will rather affect the ministry at the end of the day.
Oh my God. Well, I have enjoyed you. I know that my viewers have also enjoyed you. Thank you so much, Counsellor Basilea Baisie-Essel. Your name is very, you need to have a glasses on to be able to mention that. Counsellor Basilea Baisie-Essel. It's been great. We didn't even touch on loving again. See, just letting go is taking all our time. But thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you
and we've had a great time with you. Are you learning something? I know that you're learning something. Your life is getting better. Your marriage is getting better. Now we'll love the God way, the right way. Let's go for a break, and then when we get back, we'll get into finances.